Now this illustration deals with load side grounding connections in accordance with 250.24A5. Now getting kind of down to the meat of this, you know, sometimes folks will say, I don't understand this. We have a neutral conductor that connects to a common grounded bar where all your equipment grounds bond together and earth grounded. Now, why is this allowed and they're considered two different conductors? Well, the reason why is illustrated here in this 250.24A5 as well as 250.122. It's illustrated and outlined perfectly. The equipment ground is connected in parallel. The equipment ground is connected to the metal of equipment. It's and junction boxes, raceways and everything, and connected back to the common bar to ground where the neutral connects to. But the neutral at the load and at the equipment is isolated from the metal. In fact, the neutral is supposed to be isolated completely through the system and be insulated on the load side. It cannot connect to equipment, but the equipment ground can. It can connect to the metal enclosure, but the neutral's not supposed to. And that's one thing that I just kind of like to talk about and get out of the way, because we still occasionally get that question. Now notice load side 250.142B, along with all of table 250.122, as well as the sections and subparts of 250.122. Now if I had, say, a 225 amp main in that panel board, feeding maybe a feeder out to an area, I'd need at least a number 4, I think, equipment grounding conductor per table 250.122 or whatever's listed there for that size main. You had a 30 amp main, like we said, number 10, 20 amp main, number 12. So you have your equipment grounds designated with enough copper or aluminum clad to provide an effective path for an overcurrent or say a ground fault to flow over to trip the overcurrent device. Now the grounded neutral conductor, it's also grounded to that same bar, all your neutrals. The grounded bar has to connect there that we've already gone over. And we've gone over completely the grounded neutral that you see. And we talked about 220.61A carrying the unbalanced current and be sized for the maximum balanced current on any one ungrounded phase. 250.24C1 and C2 grounding on at the equipment, service equipment, grounding at the transformer. And then 310.15E that dealt with how we'd use the neutral if it was a neutral conductor. So you see, you still have everything listed there for supply side and load side grounding, with the sections referring you to each one based upon supply side or load side, so that we keep on track and we design a good grounding system for supply and load side grounding. So here, this illustration 16-24 is simply dealing with load side grounding connections in accordance with 250.122 as well as table 250.122, the size and equipment ground based upon the overcurrent device. Then remember, 250.118 deals with providing a grounding system for equipment grounding. It could be metal conduit with equipment ground, metal clad cable with an equipment ground, the metal clad only of the cable, in some cases just the metal of the raceway. But it gives you the grounding scheme that you could use. Then 250.119 would give you the color coding of the insulation of an equipment ground, as well as the identification procedure, 250.119. Once again, I'll mention to you, whatever you do, review 310.6 and 310.10. One deals with the insulation, being able to be used in wet, damp, dry, exposed to sun, and etc. Then the other section would refer you to 200.7 for the grounded conductor, how you would identify or color code it. It'll refer you to 250.119 for color coding or identifying the equipment ground. Then it'll also refer you to 210.5C for branch circuits, and then 215.12C for feeders. So all these section numbers you don't have to keep in your mind. Just remember 310.6 and 310.10, and you're on your way. And then, of course, you can look at each illustration based upon load side grounding connections, meaning an overcurrent device, ahead of your conductors. And keep in mind, go to the table of contents if you're using our design book, and it will refer you to branch circuits, feeders, services, gives you every chapter what it deals with. Then you can go to the chapter and just flum through there in systematic order and find the section that deals with your subject. But it'll put you in the right area with your table of contents.